group as well. And that is going to be a very quick ban of the Ying to come through from Liquid. An operator that has seen a lot of bans actually in the Latin America region. So has Nuck for basically the whole world.
I mean, the thing about Nuck, if you're joining us at a major for the first time and haven't really watched League play, hi, welcome. This is exciting. Nuck forces pros to play a different game. You may be thinking, if you're a sort of more casual Siege player, why Nuck? Why does she have such a high ban presence? She doesn't do much outside of games. She's an entry, for one. She has grenades. She has that lead-in. But a big part of Rainbow Six at a comp level is information, is intel, is how you play with the knowledge of what your opponents are doing. Nuck forces teams to have to come up with plan Bs in and amongst their strategy. Get it gone.
Yeah, that's it. You want to get rid of that. You want to make sure that you can rely on your cameras, right? You want to be able to actually have that information game, and completely bypasses that. Similar to Vigil on the defense. For those of you that have been watching a little bit longer, might be returning as well. So that is stuff to keep in mind. And, you know, after the recent nerfs that we had to LMGs, to Finka, Nuck really made an appearance as, well, the go-to entry fragger now for many of these players and teams. But as we get going, the Vulcans are being put in place to stop any quick rush from Blue to come through. However, Envy is going to be bringing that Twitch. We also have Flores coming out from Arakaze, so there's going to be a lot of drone utility coming out from Sandbox. And that will be used to get rid of the utility that Team Liquid wants to place down. So it is going to be key to actually shut down these drones. And Team Liquid, they actually banned that mute, so their operator is off the cards. He cannot use that to stop these drones from rolling in.
Yeah, Flores is in such a good spot. It's hooking up.
I like that.
It's a great aggressive shield. You've obviously got the lead in there from the Banshee, just tucked on the corner. You know, as soon as they try and get any width on a swing, you just extend a little bit further out. Blue might get hit. This way you can sort of hit back earlier on and cause some more problems. The Flores should be able to deal with it all. That's not going to be the biggest drive against the man who can drive straight through, but it's Arakaze to get that opener there. Found Nesk, the hot drone round on the side. They're breaching their way through just past the classroom, teaching the opening lesson of entry kills, something Sandbox are very good at.
I mentioned it before, 50% they get it in their APAC North rounds, but 80% of them they win. So this is a very good start for Sandbox and for APAC fans who really want to see one of these teams at least make it out towards quarters. Now, as the hatches are going to be opened up, it is going to be Sandbox Gaming that wants to put down the pressure as quickly as they can. Now, they do have the upper hand over Team Liquid. So as the pressure starts to arise, they can slowly get themselves into the right positions and see if they can force themselves into 1 or 2 more kills.
The fight around the tower stairs. Resets is going to pull himself back. You can see they've pulled back from the shield as well. I think they've sort of got the sniff. The pressure's coming heavier from the opposite angle. Sure, you open up a plan A and a plan B and just try and put some pressure onto the roots. There's a lot of verticalities that you can kind of pick apart around the site itself, but no direct route through, so it comes into a little bit of a swing of a sledgehammer towards any and all grabs around the site itself, and that's what Sandbox are doing. They're set up onto Laundry. There's pressure onto Freezer on the far side. You can see Good Boy on the far end. They're making sure there's a presence on each angle, and where is it coming from is what Liquid's trying to work out.
The keeper barrier used there to stop the Laundry push to come through was supposed to stop this shot from happening, but MV Taylor still shuts down Lagone. The smoke canister instantly used to try and dislocate him, push him back a little bit, buy some time for Team Liquid, because 55 seconds are left on the clock. They're 2 men down now onto Sandbox, who have basically only taken a single tick of damage worth of that smoke canister.
You can see Resets is trying to get a little bit aggro here, just caught on the drone. Shyle wanted to swing around, but he realized it and once again has to pull himself back. They're still playing this game, weighing up just where they can try and find a bite back into the fight. Palu, C4 ripped, ready and raring to go on the swing round. 30 seconds and all the worst possible timing there for Good Boy. Just as the swing came through, that grenade is just going to tuck onto the close angle. There's the back of a player, hopes to get the rest of him, but it's Palu that wins out on MV Taylor. There's the revenge. Ask does get a lockdown, but Good Boy on the corridor of the site. Ask doing huge work round on the back of the Laundry Sing. He's tucked round on a corner. The 2 versus 1 as Resets is all that's left. Digs his way through onto the site. Cannot find the first fight, and Sandbox open us up with the first round.
Well done by Sandbox there. And I mean, it all started off in the early round where they managed to pick up the opening kill completely for free. Then used the utility to get rid of the defensive structures that had been placed. Banshees, most importantly, they will slow you down if you do go for the execute later on, which we did see happen. And the keeper barriers, you know, they were used for some reconstruction, but not completely to its fullest effect. Because we did see the kill still coming through with 2-man advantage coming in for Sandbox. And after that, it was just playing that trading game, making sure you force yourself onto the site, take as much ground as you can, and lock it off from there.
First round, you know, it sort of goes a bit of a way. I think that was very, very well balanced from Sandbox. I complimented them on the approach, and you could see Liquid were trying to suss it out. It did come down a little bit closer towards the wire. It's a 2 versus 2 to a 2 versus 1 on the site in the final 15 seconds. You can't really fault Liquid for how they started to bite back into that, but it's how they grow from this that's the important part. A change of sight, a little bit more of a lean in towards that intel. You've now got the Falcon cams, you've got those Prismas as well for the early call on anyone that might try and take a bit of a sprayed fight through round on the corner. Sandbox can sometimes be slow. If that's a caution that you can push and put pressure onto, that 6th man of a team of time,
yes,
suddenly becomes a little bit more worrisome if you're Sandbox.
Yeah, that's it, right? They need to make sure they keep the pace up on the Sandbox side of things, whereas Liquid, they can really slow it down. But that's why you cannot afford these opening kills to happen in the first 20, 30 seconds, because then Sandbox has the opportunity to completely move up. So that's something they need to adapt to. Luckily, it's very early on in the game. It's only 1-0 now for Sandbox, so there is not a single worry in the world yet. As Shaw actually saw some lags pass by there. Almost had the opportunity to go for an entry again early in the game.
Will they be able to get the second in a row, though? Obviously, it was by this point that Nesk had unfortunately been removed from the game, Liquid. There's the pressure from the Flores drones. We talked about being a bit of a big drive here. When you've got the options of no mutes, well, Flores is going to have the best possible time. The flashes and the pressure round. Ask, oh, he's in a huge angle, gets the take there. They did not check T3. And that is an easy pick for the man watching Armory Stairs. They now have that entry blow into their favor. Ask can sort of sit around and waste time. Has obviously a couple of options for if he wants to sort of stick around. He's going for a bit more of a flat fight here, potentially against it. Narakaze suddenly alone.
Yeah, T2 is going to be that bit of a pressure point now towards the Armory Stairs. They need to come up, but that window is going to be dangerous, especially with a player that is still going to be around in Trophy. Palu has the opportunity to swing as well, really make life difficult for the players that are coming out from the Armory side. So they need to find a way in. They need to find a way to force themselves through. And as they're starting to push up, slowly but steadily, Palu is getting flashbanged out.
Yeah, he doesn't need to stick around. There's some swing pressure from Nesk there. Ask suffers, but then gets one right back kick cold. Static tried to risk the long arm firefight. Lagonis is taking the next shred of damage as Palu's pulled himself back to pit and swings his way around. Misses the first, goes for the second, picks it up anyway. Arakaze did find one just before, but now the 3 versus 2. They've got that tower player. They still have to try and take the site.
Very well aware of the fact that there is going to be some danger around tower or going to be the attic. And now the rotation is coming through, so a completely different approach seems to be coming in. And Vitella going down from below, wants to open up on that kitchen. Has to be careful, though, because Resets is still down below, still has some camera work up for him, but Shao gets the kill. Brings it back to a 2-2. A lot more doable now for Sandbox. Still 30 seconds on the clock. Pre-play C4, he hears it tick down, but there's no more operator that can detonate it, so safe from that threat.
20 seconds, and it's going to turn into a push, I'm assuming, around the top of White. MV Taylor, he wanted to go to the top there, pulls back, has to hold off now. Shile, 10 seconds, and the kit in pocket. He needs the pressure to come through. There's the swing, loses out the first fight. Lagonis has it on lock. MV Taylor, blinded by his own flashes through on the swing round. He's stuck underneath even. I think he hit the hatch drop and did not mean to.
I mean, he was completely blind, so I wouldn't be surprised if he accidentally walked into it at that point. But well done by Liquid. Got the opening kill. They kept up the pressure from the tower, making sure that Armory was going to be a no-go for the side of Sandbox. And after that, lock it out nicely and steadily. However, we have to give some credit to Sandbox as well, because they did manage to fight themselves back into relatively even numbers there. But 1-1. And we're heading back towards the basement, back towards Laundry and Supply. This is where Sandbox managed to get a very early opening kill, then use their utility well to get rid of Melusi's, bonfires, even the Goyo canisters, the Vulcan canisters that have been placed on the ground. If Liquid changes this up a little bit, if you send Nesk up to the top floor a little bit earlier so he doesn't get caught off in the late rotation, you might find yourself with a bit more success. And let's see if they indeed have learned from those past mistakes in this basement.
Well, I mean, it was that more of a flirtation with the danger. They put the pressure onto the far end. As I said, there was going to be a lean-in on Intel. Turns out they didn't really need it as drastically as maybe expected. It was great play from the top of T3. He sort of realized you play that position with danger. You expect that there's going to be pressure at some point. You expect somebody's going to try and say hello. Usually you don't get a pick in that sort of manner. Sandbox missed the boat. They missed the opportunity. They missed the take that they should have been able to do there, and they were punished for it. And then that entry statistic, it does go both ways. Liquid here. If they can get the lean in, if they can pull themselves back into the lead, the site that they lost just before, it was close, as I said. Can they see if they can translate this and open it over the side of dorms?
They're aware of the fact that the dorms are being taken by Sandbox. You already saw Palu having his C4 out, willing to toss it up, but they had no clue yet where they were. Now Shal opens up with the skeleton key, and that is going to be making the freezer staircase a lot less playable for the defense. You instantly see them fall back through that freezer towards the site. Do not want to take the risk of sticking around. Even though they do have a nitro cell, even though they might have been able to pick up an early kill, time is more important, and with the resets being present in T3, he has the opportunity to strike later on. Once they do start opening these hatches, when they do start preparing for the drop, he comes down, he can strike them in the back, and that could be round winning.
It's a really clever change up here from Liquid. They realized that, you know, Sandbox went for a very wide take. They realized that Sandbox also sort of messed up on the T3 take there, so why not double down and risk it? See if you can play against those pockets of intel that Sandbox aren't quite getting put together. Sometimes the pressures of playing in this situation are ones that cause those little mistakes, and we just saw an Iana drone herself through underneath the bottom of tower and not get checked by that top floor. Good boy, I don't believe has any idea of that tier 3 player there. You can see a drone sat on the stairs. This is a perfect sort of play in place there for that top floor player to be. They've just got to wait patiently.
The longer he waits as well, the more likely Sandbox is going to be thinking that everything else is going to be clear and the remaining players will be on the site, so he just needs to be patient here. As Shal has already crept himself up a little bit into the freezer, just hoping he can catch someone off guard. He hears some noises though, but you know, he's still hoping that he might be able to find one player stepping a little bit out of line, given the opening to Sandbox that they need.
That's it. He's cautious that he's maybe been discovered a little bit closer. The pressure from Good Boy over the top of the hatch is trying to get some of the work done onto Pillar. There's the first drone round. There's the follow-up. Palu just saw the edge and pulls himself out of the fight. Doesn't want to take it at an unfortunate angle. There's one either side. The Azami tries to lock the door, and the C4 can still be delivered. Good Boy's taking the drop and gets dropped by Nesk. Swinging around on the side of Pillar. They tried to get it locked in, but it was perfect play by Liquid here to just stop any of the approach from Sandbox. The smokes go out, responded to with one of their own. And with 15 seconds left and a 5 versus 2 and Liquid with an entire lockdown here, it's going to take a miracle from both. Resets with the rotation round on the back. Palu with his third for the round are flawless as a Liquid response.
Well done by Team Liquid there. I mean, they kept it steady. They knew where they were coming from. Didn't lose their players early on this time around. That's also why you saw them rotating down the freezer stairs earlier. They were willing to toss up the nitro cell, but we're also thinking if we stay here too long, we might lose a player, we might lose the round as the back of it. So they pulled back and they played that nitro cell later on. I don't think that he expected a nitro cell to fly through that door when the keeper barrier went up. It was perfectly timed as well to go for an opening kill that way. And I believe it is going to be a tactical timeout to be called by Sandbox, needing to have a little bit of a chat, because there is some mistakes that have happened in these last 2 rounds, and some of it comes down to the roam clear of tier 3, for example. Not that. that was a decisive factor in that last round because, you know, kill was the last kill that happened.
But it doesn't matter because I think the culmination there and what we see perfectly exemplified over this past 2 rounds, if we're just going to take these 2 rounds, is the use of knowledge and communication from Team Liquid there, the pullback, the Azami to lock the door, the player the C4 through was really, really well put together, but it was also combined with the pace and the calls that's happening onto the drop of Good Boy. They had an awareness and they respond as a unit. Sandbox don't fully have that awareness. That's twice we've seen that player in T3 get unchecked, whether it was round defining or not. It's still something where if it was called out, for a team that is working in unison, that is a close down. That is a shutdown 99 times out of 100.
And I was going to say, like, it might have not been round defining now, but in case it was going to be closer, like it was a 3-on-3 shuffle on the side, him coming in from the back would have been round defining. So that is why you need to make sure that you deal with it. You cannot afford to leave a player out there in a map like Oregon. It's too far away. And now, as there is going to be a very heavy emphasis towards the small tower, Liquid really wants to hold on to it. 3 ADSs, a mirror window down below to protect the staircase. Some bot wire as well. Really going to be making sure that the small tower stays in control. However, MV Taylor has a different idea of that. Of course, the Ossa Talent shields might give a little bit of security towards the team, towards the players attacking this small tower. But Nask playing with the Kiba barriers is, well, going to be able to make this into a fortress.
Ossa, in the hands of MV Taylor, has been played hit and miss, I think it's fair to say. They were a roster that sort of moved quite into early usage of her. They made sure that they sort of had a drive, but it was at the beginning of the year. It was when they were struggling. More than anything, MV Taylor was the man that was often doing it, but he found himself as the last man left alive. The Flores just going to roll through and start the break. It really went for a risk there. The impact does a lot of damage towards the Ossa. Nesk, they're going to go for a potential rebuild. They're actually going to do it directly onto the window, so they can't quite get the roll through. Costs them more than one more Flores drone. Resets at the same time, under pressure. They're holding a slightly different angle, but it's Ask that finds the first. Child goes down. There's another time that entry statistic goes away from him.
Liquid has read this perfectly. They knew Sandbox wanted to take control of that small tower, and if you just look at the utility placed around it, the players playing around it, everything is basically focused on holding onto the small tower as long as possible. Nas takes down Good Boy. That is going to be making it even harder to take control, and with resets down below, not being pressured whatsoever, as Nas takes another kill. The jump in is out of question as well, as he's looking for his third.
I mean, this is it. Maybe a third and a fourth at this point. All the pings are coming towards them. All the players did the same, but Sandbox have suffered on the back end of this. Liquid, they are so watertight right now. They're making sure that any of those bleed-throughs, those potential chances, aren't just met by the ferocity of a team that's great with a gun, but also a support structure built underneath it that isn't overextending. Arakaze's holding and hoping. He thought there might be a jump out on the opposite side. He's now curious static for anyone that might be doing the same. 50 seconds late in the water. They've come off the back of one flawless round, and Sandbox are just at this point trying to make sure they don't suffer another.
I might actually have to take this time as well to truly realize what's going on. I mean, it just had a bit of a break to talk, but they're not hitting it. It's not connecting. Apart from that first round where they managed to get the opening kill, extend that into a second, they haven't been able to get the same impact. And after that, Liquid has been able to dance around them a little bit, read what they wanted to go for, and truly punish them for it. I mean, just look at this entire backside. Everything behind the kitchen is not being played whatsoever. Instead, it does find the first kill, but with 10 seconds left on the clock, he needs to find a lot more than that, as Nask finds his third as well. This one is going to be ending here. There's going to be another Liquid round to come through. And Sandbox leaving to wonder what exactly they're doing wrong.
Yeah, it started to fall off a little bit here for Sandbox. They've started to really struggle. This is mainly because of Liquid stepping up. I think the first round Liquid, it was close, and I sort of said that, and it was close off of the back of Sandbox setting themselves up. Here, Liquid realized that game. Here, over the past 3 rounds, they've just kept stepping in to this approach of Sandbox. They worked it out, and they worked it out very, very quickly, how to get this well put together response. You know, at this point, Sandbox, they've used their tac timeout. They've got to see if they can try and at least pull, I think, one more round before they go into their defense, and they have a little bit more of that modicum of time working for them.
Yeah, one more round will be perfect for them too, even better, of course, but we have to start with these small steps, because mentioned before, Liquid is just perfectly playing into whatever Sandbox is going for here. There is going to be some of these extensions, the small tower one, for example. Sandbox is tossing all 5 players into that one spot, trying to clear that one player. What did they get out of it? Completely nothing. They lost basically everybody involved in that process. And that is just something they need to play around from. Maybe do not go into the heavily fortified area because all the utility is down there. If you go to the complete opposite side of things, you might not have practiced that as much, but there's a lot less utility you'll be running into. Maybe a player, maybe 2, but not the entirety of Liquid aiming towards that one spot.
Sandbox. Now they've opted for something slightly different, and I'm hoping a bit more of a direct route towards clearing the problems that plagued them before. In the hands of MV Taylor, as I said, he sort of turns into that multi-tool for the team, the man that leads them and the man that ends up being that driving factor of changes that need to happen. However, it does require the guns of the team to start lighting up a little bit more. You want to see Good Boy getting into more of these interactions, Shyle as well. Arakaze's been able to put some of the distance down. He didn't have the best split in season, but here's the chance for that to change. There's a man toying with going all the way up to the top, and there's a man that wants to maybe respond. Ask is looking towards the chance at just playing onto meeting, playing onto the big open space. With MV Taylor now on the top of T3 and clearing his way down, he's probably going to find himself in an engagement sooner rather than later.
At least they take that tower under control early now. That is something we've seen them lack doing before, and this means that they do not have to actually worry from players coming up from that position. So that's a small step they're making. Arakaze taking a lot of damage though, needs to find a way out, but the window is still closed. Leaves him vulnerable for a second as resets. We'll find Good Boy, and Ask will be shutting down Arakaze as well.
Shyle, he's digging his way back round. He's going to see if he can get a surprise onto Oryx. Oh, and he's about 2 feet away from it. The man is crouched. He plays it perfectly, and there's resets. Round on the back, punishes the patience. And now, once again, we find 2 players remaining on the side of Sandbox. Static, he's driving himself down towards Zulu. There's a swing onto his left side on server, but it's the Pulse pulling all that intel. That's how Reset's got the drop on the single player. That's how he might be able to get the drop on the next. The blinds come around the corner. Static's expecting a swing and a fight. The C4 falls a bit short. A third swing. The fight just on the tip in the corner. The Pulse is calling all of it. And he knows exactly that his number has been caught here. He needs the support from MV Taylor, the man who went on the solo YOLO mission on the far end of the map, now has to try and drag himself back here to support it.
Static is just being stalled right now. A lot of players are putting up some pressure, but he finds one. Brings it back to a 2-on-3. His barbed wire will make some noise, though. They're aware. The shotgun comes around the corner, but doesn't quite hit the first pump as Reset shuts him down right after. Only up to MV Taylor now in a 1v3 situation. Diffuser is down on the ground. 25 seconds. It's being watched by Reset. There is going to be a pump shotgun from Lagonis up the white stairs as well. That route is going to be a no-go. He has to go through a different avenue, and that seems to be the armory staircase.
I mean, Reset has been the driving of this round. He has had the beat on all of the players, and MV Taylor's able to find Palu over the top, but without a kit. And with 2 more, 1 more, suddenly it's the single player on white, and I say Resets is the driving factor. He's all that's left. Can he swing in time? No! Oh, that suddenly got so much closer than it should have been.
He definitely put in a good fight there, managed to bring it back to a 1v1, and if only that table wasn't in that exact spot, he might have been able to go for the shot on the Pulse as well. But that was good. Good running away, good hiding coming through from Liquid in the end there, making time their ally. And that puts them 4-1 up against Sandbox. Again, another APAC team that seems to be struggling against a LATAM team that is doing well. Where have we seen this before? Right, LATAM teams doing well, especially in Sweden.
Yeah, once upon a time. But that was also the performance where we had the best performance from any Korean team ever.
It was, yes.
So, they're not at this.
A single bullet was the difference there.
A single bullet. Okay, Sandbox, I still think just 1 more round. That, I mean, it was close. You knew where the player was. If you'd swung, you know, 45 degrees less, you would have been aiming towards him. Whether you got the kill or not, I can't tell you. But that was the difference. You just need 1 more round, and you find yourself back onto the 1 map point, the 1 place on this building that you've been able to take it so far. The hold is the same.
They've been doing this 3 times now, but not a single time has Sandbox actually wanted to go down the barrels route here. Again, a quick control of the T3 side of things. I like that from Sandbox here because they have struggled from it, they have suffered from it 2 rounds in a row, and now they're just making sure that that is under control, that is going to be empty. Put up a flank drone, maybe put up some other utility there just to make sure it's not being retaken.
Imagine swinging a corner and you've got Palu and Nesk pre-aiming you.
Yeah, I don't think many players in Siege would like that happening, because those are 2 of the most deadly players in the game.
Yeah, that's usually a fight that no one's going to win. I think you could see, I think it might have been Resets that was heading up towards tower, heard the quick play of Invitational, pulled himself back, and whether that's why those 2 are stuck up, I think they expected maybe a little bit of pace to be applied across the map. It was only really... that drone was out of there. The
drone saw, he's like, no, we're leaving here. Palu and Nesk, though, they're still holding on, even though they have been spotted out, and a single grenade could theoretically take them both out. Of course, what's going to be over my disc there should be relatively safe. Those are being repurposed now as they are falling back from the staircase. Do not want to stick around, and instead they're turtling down onto the site. Let Sandbox work for it. They struggle with time and time again, and as these hatches are being opened up right now, well, it gives a clear path that they would like to take. All you need to do is shut them down before they reach it.
There it is, the breach and the break over the top. They're opening up. The electric hatch, it didn't really offer them any success before, but they went for the single drop on it and the rest of the pressure on the far end. Here, Invitational, he's hoping to find a fight onto Pillar. There's one just tucked onto Shaiko to his left, and that fight is going to be the one that's maybe blocked by the chassis of his gun itself. Nesk, he's tucked. He's waiting for that Banshee to start hollering, and then he can get the swing onto the back end of it. He knows the player's here. If he can win out this first fight, it will really set the pace. Under a minute left, the pressure is coming and cacophonying over the back end. Freezer, I think, is where most of this is starting to light up. No laundry even, as Sandbox is still trying to weigh it. Narakazi's still outside the building.
45 seconds and still ticking down. They're taking care of the last piece of utility. However, Lagone is still playing the Azami, repurposing, rebuilding the site slightly and steadily, making it more difficult for Sandbox to truly get that entry in. You see here, for example, Shao doesn't have a way through, needs to use his utility here to enable others to potentially find the kill. Is that going to work, though? That is the question. 20 seconds still counting.
20 seconds, all 10 players left standing, and one more chance here for Sandbox to get one on the attack. Invitational held up by a player I don't think he even knows. It's tucked onto the corner. It's Resets with the first. The swing round. There's one. There's 2. Good boy gets success on the drop, but with only 5 seconds, they got to try and rock the last bit. The man on the swing of Freezer puts it down cold, and that is another Liquid round.
They managed to break through on the back of things from Electrical. However, the diffuser dropped in Laundry is what made that round fall in the end. Liquid played that well. They turtled early on. They managed to get that diffuser, which should not have happened, by the way, on the side of Sandbox. They should have put that with the majority of the team for the massive amount of success opportunity. However, they lost it, and Team Liquid now leading 5-1. 5 rounds in a row as well, mind you, that they have been able to pick up.
You don't see anything in the bottom right.
No, I mean, they've been doing this all game and all last game and the game.
LAN players.
Well. They like teasing stuff.
You don't see anything.
You don't see anything? We've told you now, nothing that you saw on screen just
nothing that you saw. There was
fake.
It was just a blurry.
It's a blurry thing. It's not there. Don't worry about it.
It's photo. It's a buffering thing.
You have forgotten the player cards.
Every time I see it.
I think it's happened every single round from every single round I've watched so far, yes.
Yeah.
Not just this game, but also the previous game. The Wolves game as well.
I mean,
they just like teasing stuff.
All right, Liquid 5-1, and the first was lost almost in a different century with how these previous 5 have felt. It has been total control. But as I sort of highlighted at the very beginning, time is a problem on Sandbox's side. Now they don't really have that to work against. You might see a little bit more confidence, because the 1v1s that we've seen, those engagements have been not entirely one-sided. There have been these moments where Sandbox have been able to drive themselves back into fights. They've been gunning. It's just Liquid have been out-planning. They've been surrounding. They've always been trading.
Yeah, the thing is, right, there is an FPS aspect to Siege and there is a strategical aspect to Siege. Liquid does have both, and Sandbox for now are basically only, like, they're good at their gunfights. They're winning those out, like, here and there as well, but the strategy just doesn't seem to connect to whatever Liquid was doing so far. The rules have changed, however, it's Sandbox now on the defense, and Liquid needs to solve the puzzle that has been tossed up against them. But resets up the T3, instantly takes down Shao, who's playing in that tower. Has takes a lot of damage now, but the entry kill is going to be Liquid's.
I mean, that was so well played there. Once again, Liquid, they had the pinch on the player. It was that sort of approach I've been crying out for from the side of Sandbox. Don't just send one player. Be prepared for a trap. Be prepared for a play. Liquid, the team play this game has been exceptional. They've made sure that they're in a position where if there's not a plan A for success, there's a plan B and a position to bite back. They also know not to overextend. They can pull themselves back. They can pull that control back on. We saw it sort of shown consistently on their defense, here on their attack there as well. They didn't double down for that fight onto the stair set. They pulled themselves back, put the ping down, and started pulling the pin on the grenade.
Now there's going to be 1 minute and 10 seconds left. That is plenty of time for these Flores drones to take care of some of that utility. But look at that, there's still a Vulcan canister next to the blue door. 3 players of Liquid are currently aiming up to go through that door. If they do not take care of that canister before, that might deal massive amounts of damage with the amount of Sandbox players that are looking towards it. Good Boy could pop it. I believe we have some player onto the pillar as well, and Arakazi right behind the shield and elbow. He's ready to pop it. It's getting popped now as the flashbangs are coming through. They want to stop that push from coming in.
There it is, the hot pockets, and Goyo is making sure a hot fire happens around the corner. Lagonis has stopped on the approach, but Pillar is still going to fall. Just saw the corner of a man. They've got themselves control of the front of Pillar, but with Elbow now about to fall, they'll finally pull back. Harakaze actually leans back in, gets caught out. Palu with 2 more. It's Nesk on the tail end. There's a strike from above. Doesn't get the kill, but does get the kick cold. Finds the end of it. The drop, the smoke, just on the player, forces them out. Resets was very low, but they know exactly where he is. There's one on the shower corridor that's creeping in behind him that I think he's about to find. There it is. That was... His left click got stuck.
And left click got stuck in the end there. Happens. But a lot of damage actually done by the Vulcan canisters to come through. However, Liquid, as deadly as they are, they didn't really care. They just ran through, managed to find 3 kills on the get-go, and instantly found themselves onto the site there. And it finds themselves onto a match point situation, 6-1, 5 opportunities to lock it off. But I think they want to go for 7 straight rounds in a row. Not give Sandbox an opportunity to find a single one more than they already have on the board.
It has been a statement. And, you know, at the start, I sort of expected a little bit more of a fight here. I wanted a little bit more of a fight and engagement between these two teams. Sandbox just have not been able to bring it because Liquid has been in control. They've had, as I said, the highlight on just having a team strike, having multiple different routes and angles, having all of the 5 players well rehearsed, well in step, and well all over Sandbox.
Yeah, that's going to be it. Liquid have really been dominating Sandbox here. And, you know, it shows in terms of the small setups we saw. For example, small tower they held on their meeting room hold with a lot of utility there. 3 angles being set up by other supporting defenders, stopping any Sandbox player from truly entering the building, but also just opening up towards the barrels, for example. Sandbox didn't even think about going there. And I'm not sure if that's due to the setup or due to their plan in general, but Liquid has just been outplanning them and outgunning them at this moment. So Sandbox, I mean, they're kind of just stuck in this position where they need to find rounds, but don't really have an opportunity to do so. And that's a sad thing, really. So really hope they get back into this and at least put some extra rounds on the board, because round differential will matter at the end of the groups and might make the difference between you making it or not.
All right, how will this round play out? The most important for Sandbox is every single one. MV Taylor tried to get a surprise strike, the reverse of how they suffered last time, getting the attacker out on the window itself rather than on the in. Statics on the roam and the route down, sees the open door, and, well, Ask was somewhat aware. And you can see the pressures coming onto Garage. They wanted to maybe pinch that player out. They're still holding hope that they're still around, but it's forcing a little bit more of a clear and a cleanse on the far end than I think Liquid wanted. It was a good gambit. Not getting a kill out of it, though, I think is going to be the blow here for Sandbox.
Yeah, for sure. They really needed that kill, especially in Lagonis, who is going to be that heart breacher. It truly would have been easing up their approach a little bit over the remainder of this round. However, they failed, and that means they need to adapt here. Luckily, they had the escape from Static. He was being pressured from the armory, dropped down into the garage, then all the way down towards that basement. Luckily for him, Nesk was not right in the right position to stop him or shut him down before he actually reached the laundry stairs. And that leaves Liquid in this 5v5 situation now as well. With a minute still left on the clock, Rooney laser gates they will need to waste to get it with the ball onto the game's room that they will hope to breach through to get a plant on the board. But Good Boy on the top of the white stairs, he is going to be that crucial factor. If they manage to remove him from the equation, that's when you might be able to get a plan down.
Static is holding off the bottom of the white stairs. He's that loose player right now that wants to punish the surprise, but it seems like Liquid have entirely picked up sticks and headed over the take on the far end. Resets, getting himself onto the dorm's window, putting the pressure on the swing round, seeing if he can get that flash round onto the back line. He's hoping to make sure that this white stairs becomes unswingable. They have the control over games. They've just got to try and thread their way through and get the stick down. The first goes. It's Nesk to bite through, gets Shyle, and there it is. They're trying to get the rotation. Arakaze finds one back in. Nesk, he's hopping over the top. It's Arakaze with another before Palu finally gets the strike. Pocket full of seconds left. They've just got to try and get this kit down. Laguna still has it in tied round. There it is. The tuck on the far end. They're holding off. They don't seem to have any of the awareness here. They're hoping they haven't quite made it. There's the fight on the window. And there is Liquid getting another 7-1 result today. The second APAC has been on the bad end of. And it's been a great start to this for Latin America.
It was a great first round for Sandbox, but unfortunately after that, Liquid really stepped into the next gear and were unreachable. With that 7-1, well, that is going to be the perfect start towards their groups. They're hoping to continue that pace as well, of course. But there's really nothing I can say where, you know, they made massive mistakes. Liquid played the game almost perfectly here today against Sandbox. Where Sandbox, some slight mistakes, some slight timing issues really cost them these rounds.
Yeah, it's just that sort of pressure on a team that does feel pressure from that play. They kind of had a good start. I complimented it at the time. I think against other teams, they might have been able to piece some things together. But that was a juggernaut performance from Liquid. They had all the awareness, all the intel, and the wherewithal to act behind it. It's a terrifying statement for them to make for this whole tournament.
And again, you have to remember, Liquid is one of the most experienced teams that we have in this competition, played on majors, on like international LAN events so many times before. And of course, they have Copa Elite and the normal Brazil. So Sandbox, they were really playing against a juggernaut, as you just mentioned, which was tough to beat.
We'll go to a quick break before we're back to break that game down.